Picture this. It's 5 a.m. in ancient Rome. The city sleeps, but in his private chambers, the most powerful man in the world sits quietly with a scroll and stylus. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, commander of legions, ruler of an empire that spans 3 continents, begins his day not with urgent dispatches or military briefings, but with a conversation with himself. He writes, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Not exactly what you'd expect from a morning affirmation, is it? Yet this practice of honest self-reflection, this deliberate preparation for the day ahead, became the foundation of one of history's most profound philosophical traditions. What if the secret to starting your day with unshakable clarity and purpose isn't found in the latest productivity hack or morning routine trend, but in wisdom that's been tested by emperors, slaves, and philosophers for over 2,000 years? What if the very challenges that make your mornings feel chaotic and overwhelming are the same ones that Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus faced in their own time? And what if they left us a roadmap for navigating them with grace? The Stoics understood something that our modern world seems to have forgotten. How we begin our day determines not just our mood or productivity, but the very quality of our character. They knew that the first moments of consciousness are precious, malleable, like clay in the hands of a sculptor. In those quiet minutes between sleep and the demands of the world, we have the power to shape our entire existence. But here's what makes Stoic morning practices different from everything else you've tried. They're not about optimizing your performance or maximizing your output. They're about something far more profound. They're about remembering who you are, what you can control, and how you want to show up in the world, regardless of what that world throws at you. Think about your typical morning. The alarm jolts you awake, and within seconds, you're reaching for your phone, flooding your consciousness with notifications, news, other people's opinions and emergencies. Before you've even taken a full breath, your mind is scattered across a dozen different concerns, most of which are completely outside your influence. You're reactive before you're even fully awake. Sound familiar? The Stoics would have seen this as a tragedy, not because they were against engagement with the world, but because they understood that when we begin our day in reaction mode, we surrender our most precious gift, our ability to choose our response to life's circumstances. As Epictetus taught his students, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But how can we choose our reactions wisely if we never pause to remember that we have a choice at all? This is where the ancient practice of morning reflection becomes not just helpful, but essential. Imagine instead waking up and, before reaching for your phone or rushing into your day, taking a few moments to center yourself in what the Stoics called the discipline of desire. This isn't about wanting less or suppressing your ambitions. It's about aligning your desires with reality, about wanting what you have while working toward what you believe is right. Marcus Aurelius would begin many mornings by reminding himself of life's impermanence. "Remember that very little disturbs the wise man," he wrote, "for he is not disturbed by what is not in his power." Picture him in those pre-dawn hours, not as an emperor worried about the weight of empire, but as a human being practicing the art of perspective. He would contemplate the vastness of time and space, not to diminish his importance, but to free himself from the petty anxieties that could consume his day. What would it feel like to start your morning with this kind of cosmic perspective? Not the overwhelming sense that nothing matters, but the liberating recognition that most of what we worry about is far smaller than we imagine. When you're stuck in traffic, frustrated by a delayed meeting, or anxious about a difficult conversation, what changes when you remember that you're a temporary arrangement of atoms on a small planet, orbiting an ordinary star in one of billions of galaxies? This isn't escapism, it's clarity. It's the difference between being swept away by every minor turbulence and maintaining your equilibrium no matter what storms arise. The Stoics called this the view from above, and they practiced it not to become detached from life, but to engage with it more skillfully. Seneca, the wealthy advisor to emperors, understood perhaps better than anyone how easy it is to lose ourselves in the urgency of daily demands. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Each morning offers us this gift, the chance to begin again, to choose differently, to align our actions with our deepest values rather than our immediate impulses." But what does this look like practically? How do we translate ancient wisdom into modern morning habits that actually work in our complex, fast-paced lives? The Stoic morning begins with what we might call philosophical preparation. Before engaging with the external world, we engage with our internal world. We ask ourselves, what kind of person do I want to be today? What virtues do I want to embody? What challenges might I face? And how can I prepare my mind to meet them with wisdom rather than reactivity? This isn't positive thinking or wishful visualization. It's honest preparation. Marcus Aurelius didn't pretend that difficult people wouldn't cross his path. He prepared himself to respond to them with patience and understanding. He didn't ignore the possibility of setbacks. He reminded himself that obstacles could become opportunities for growth. Consider how different your day might unfold if you began it by honestly acknowledging what you can and cannot control. The Stoics were obsessed with this distinction, not because they were pessimists, but because they were realists who had discovered the secret to inner peace. When you truly accept that you cannot control other people's actions, the weather, traffic, or the stock market, you free up enormous mental and emotional energy to focus on what you can control. Your thoughts, your responses, your choices, your character. Epictetus, who knew suffering intimately as a former slave, taught that we suffer not because of what happens to us, but because of our judgments about what happens to us. Every morning offers us the chance to examine these judgments, to question whether our automatic interpretations of events are serving us or enslaving us. What if that criticism from your boss isn't a personal attack, but feedback that could help you grow? What if that financial setback isn't a catastrophe, but an opportunity to practice resilience and creativity? What if that health challenge isn't a punishment, but a reminder to appreciate what you have while you have it? The Stoics weren't naive optimists. They were skilled interpreters of experience who had learned to find opportunity and meaning even in difficulty. If you found value in these reflections, consider joining us here each week as we explore how ancient wisdom can illuminate modern challenges. There's something powerful about creating a community of people committed to living more thoughtfully, more intentionally. The practice of morning reflection also involves what the Stoics called negative visualization, though the name makes it sound more pessimistic than it actually is. This practice involves briefly imagining the loss of things we value, not to create anxiety, but to cultivate gratitude and prepare ourselves psychologically for life's inevitable changes. Seneca would sometimes spend entire days living as if he were poor, eating simple food and wearing plain clothes, not because he didn't appreciate luxury, but because he wanted to remember that his happiness didn't depend on external circumstances. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' What would happen if you began some mornings by briefly imagining the loss of something you take for granted? Your health, your home, your relationships, your abilities, not to create fear, but to awaken appreciation. Not to expect loss, but to prepare yourself to handle it gracefully if it comes." The Stoics understood that when we practice losing things in our imagination, we become less attached to them in a neurotic way, while appreciating them more deeply. This practice transforms our relationship with impermanence from something we fear into something we accept as the natural order of things. When we truly understand that everything we love is temporary, we love more fully in the present moment. When we accept that every day with our loved ones is a gift that could be our last, we waste less time on petty arguments and more time on genuine connection. The Stoic morning routine also includes what we might call virtue rehearsal. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Each morning offers an opportunity to consider how we might embody these qualities in the day ahead. Wisdom isn't just about accumulating knowledge, it's about applying knowledge skillfully to live well. How might you practice wisdom today? Perhaps by listening more carefully before speaking, by seeking to understand before seeking to be understood, by admitting when you don't know something, rather than pretending you do. Justice, for the Stoics, wasn't just about legal fairness, but about treating all people with dignity and respect, about contributing to the common good rather than just pursuing personal advantage. How might you practice justice today? Perhaps by considering how your actions affect others, by standing up for someone who can't stand up for themselves, by choosing cooperation over competition when possible. Courage isn't just physical bravery. It's the willingness to do what's right, even when it's difficult, to face uncertainty without being paralyzed by fear, to be vulnerable when vulnerability serves a greater good. How might you practice courage today? Perhaps by having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding, by taking a calculated risk that could lead to growth, by admitting a mistake rather than covering it up. Temperance isn't about deprivation, it's about moderation, about choosing what's enough rather than always wanting more, about delayed gratification in service of long-term flourishing. How might you practice temperance today? Perhaps by eating mindfully rather than mindlessly, by choosing quality over quantity in your activities, by saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This isn't a call to lower your standards or abandon your dreams. It's a recognition that happiness is an inside job, that external circumstances can enhance or challenge our well-being, but they cannot determine it. What would change in your life if you truly believed this? If you knew that your peace of mind didn't depend on getting that promotion, finding the perfect relationship, or achieving financial security? If you understood that these things might bring pleasure or convenience, but your fundamental well-being comes from something deeper, something that no external force can touch. This is perhaps the most radical insight of Stoic philosophy, that we already have everything we need to live well. Not everything we want, not everything that would make life easier or more pleasant, but everything we need to respond to, whatever life brings with dignity, wisdom, and grace. The morning practice of remembering this truth doesn't make us passive or resigned. Instead, it frees us to pursue our goals from a place of strength rather than desperation, to work toward what we want while being at peace with what we have, to strive for excellence without being destroyed by imperfection. As your morning reflection draws to a close, the Stoics would encourage you to set an intention for the day ahead. Not a rigid plan that will frustrate you when it doesn't unfold perfectly, but a flexible commitment to showing up as your best self regardless of circumstances. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent and the whole house has become quiet, I examine the entire day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by." But the morning practice is the complement to this evening review. In the morning, we prepare. In the evening, we reflect. In the morning, we set our intention. In the evening, we examine how well we lived up to it. This creates a beautiful cycle of continuous improvement, not in the sense of harsh self-criticism, but in the spirit of gentle, persistent growth. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice being human more skillfully, to embody our values more consistently, to respond to challenges more wisely. The ancient Stoics faced many of the same fundamental challenges we face today: difficult relationships, financial pressures, health concerns, political uncertainty, the struggle to balance personal desires with social responsibilities. They didn't have smartphones or social media, but they had their own versions of distraction and overwhelm. What they developed was a set of mental tools that remain as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. As you consider incorporating these practices into your own morning routine, remember that the goal isn't perfection. Marcus Aurelius, despite being one of history's greatest philosophers, still struggled with anger, frustration, and doubt. The difference is that he had developed the habit of returning to his principles, of remembering what mattered most, of choosing his response rather than being controlled by his reactions. Your morning Stoic practice might last 5 minutes or 50. It might involve reading a passage from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, or simply taking a few moments to remember what you can and cannot control. The specific form matters less than the underlying intention. To begin each day grounded in wisdom rather than swept away by circumstance. What would your life look like if you started each day with this kind of philosophical foundation? If you began each morning by remembering who you are at your best, what you value most deeply, and how you want to contribute to the world. If you prepared yourself mentally and emotionally for whatever challenges might arise, not with anxiety, but with confidence in your ability to handle them wisely. The Stoics believed that philosophy wasn't an academic exercise, but a way of life, a daily practice of becoming more fully human. They understood that wisdom isn't something we achieve once and then possess forever, but something we must cultivate continuously, like tending a garden or maintaining our physical health. As we conclude this exploration of Stoic morning practices, consider this invitation. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone or rush into your day, take just a few moments to connect with these ancient insights. Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be today. Remind yourself what you can and cannot control. Prepare your mind to meet whatever comes with equanimity and grace. If these reflections have resonated with you, we'd be honored to have you join our community of thoughtful people, exploring how timeless wisdom can guide us through modern challenges. There's something powerful about walking this path together, supporting each other in the daily practice of living more consciously. The sun rises each day, offering us the same gift the Stoics recognized over 2 millennia ago: a fresh start, a new opportunity to align our actions with our values, to respond to life's challenges with wisdom rather than reactivity, to remember that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control what we make of what happens to us. In those quiet moments before the world awakens, before the demands and distractions begin, we have the chance to remember who we are and who we want to become. We have the opportunity to prepare our minds and hearts for whatever the day may bring. We have the privilege of beginning again, armed with the wisdom of ages and the fresh possibility of this new day. This is the gift of the Stoic morning, not just a routine, but a practice of remembering what matters most and preparing ourselves to live accordingly. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, these ancient practices offer us an anchor, a way to remain centered and purposeful no matter what storms may come. The emperors and slaves, the wealthy and the poor, the healthy and the sick who practiced these principles discovered something that remains as true today as it was in ancient Rome. That peace of mind and strength of character are not dependent on external circumstances, but on the daily choice to live according to wisdom, to respond to life with virtue, and to remember that every morning offers us the chance to begin again.